Welcome to Block 11, our Evening Star. This is the second last block of our series of 12 miniature blocks in the block of the month for 2022. Our Evening Star is going to be using our light number 1, and it's located here in the center of the quilt, your miniature piece. It's simply constructed from 2 different units. It's very different than any we've done so far. We've had a few meet in the middle, so we'll see if that's similar in any way. The pattern's constructed from 2 different units. Our A unit is a complete triangle, an isosceles triangle, and our B unit is like a kite. All the seams will be sewn once through from raw edge to raw edge. I've only indicated that in the first 2 pieces, one A and one B unit, so you can use that as an idea of what we're going to be doing. You can transfer the lines if you like to the other ones. All of our pieces, except for of course the triangles, we're going to do all of our trapezoids as strips and build it like a courthouse step. And we'll be trimming off all those edges later. So they'll be very simply cut from 1-inch strips, and we'll take a look at how that works in the next frame here. We'll find it most helpful to cut our isosceles triangles from a piece of the paper template. So if we take our A unit and cut actually with the seam allowances and then add a 3/8 on the top edge of this, we'll have a nice piece that'll give us a size that we need for the corners or the centers where they meet. It's advisable to add just a little bit more because a 1/4 inch is going to leave us a little short, but if we add a bit on each side and cut each individually, we'll be able to get a generous enough triangle that shouldn't cause us too much trouble. I've indicated here, it's difficult to see, but this is the wrong side. Although it's a symmetrical shape, that is to say we could use it either right or wrong side in our piece, we do want to make a habit of cutting it with a template on the back side of the fabric. As for the 1-inch strips, you can cut them all in piles. You can double them up and have them front to back if you wish. There's different sizes and indicated on the handout. That's with your pattern on the website or in the YouTube channel. So our 4-inch triangles, we have, 3-inch, and we have 2 1/4 triangle as well. So that's a 3-inch and a 2 1/4 triangle for parts of our block. And our right angle triangles are going to be cut as we have in the past from a square. And the square is 2 inches. Again, all this information is on your handout. The medium is going to be from a 2 1/2 and a 2-inch rectangle. Of our 1-inch strips, we'll need 8 of the smaller one and 4 of the larger one for our block. Our dark pieces are also going to be 2 1/2 inches for starting off. We'll need 8 of these, and because we'll be using them in 2 of our blocks, they'll be the same size. And then our isosceles triangles will be cut again from a piece of fabric that's about 2 inches wide and 4 1/2 or 5 inches long. Just cut a strip of 2-inch fabric and then work your pieces out of that. Okay, we'll also stack them as we have in the past with our little units. For A, we will need our triangle. We'll set up 4 of these. That's our beginning piece, number 1. Number 2 will be our smaller of the medium pieces. So we'll flip these over. These are right side down. Pile 4 of these. And our dark is going to be the 3. We only have one size of these. This will be the one. We'll deal these ones out. And then our longer, our 3-inch piece of the light for the end. This again is the light number 1 if you're alternating colors. Okay. Our B unit is going to begin with the darkest of our, I'll just set this one up here. We've got our dark first, flip that down. Number 2 is our medium, the longer medium. Oh, I flipped it over and it was already that way around. Aha. All right. Number 3 is going to be our right angle triangle. Make sure the right side is down. I've cut mine in pairs so I have a right and a wrong side together. That was messing me up a bit. Okay, then we're going to jump from our 3 to the 4 is also a light, which we have put aside over here. There, I flipped this one over again. All right, 5 is our medium. We're running out of pieces, so we must be getting close. Oh, there we go again. All right, and then our dark. Isosceles triangle. I won't flip these because they're already upside down. And did I lose one? Must be stuck. Aha, here we are. All right. Now we can take our A units and our B units to our sewing machine and get those put together. Unit A will be made from the center out. We have 4 different pieces piled here with our right side up. We'll begin with number 1 on the left, number 2 on the right of a line, and create our crease. We'll take number 1 piece and flip it over. This was the only one that will be starting with the right side down. And we'll place our triangle on top. We've made it the size that we need, so we have a good sense of where it's going, what it needs to cover. We'll just set it up so it's about 1/4 inch from our fold, and then we'll take number 2, which is right side up, and put that together with the right side of number 1. We'll just center it evenly. And if anything, we'll just create a bit of an overlap so that the lighter fabric is on top. Just a hair, a thread, I suppose, beyond the medium, just so that we don't get shadowing from a darker fabric. We'll just take it to the machine and make sure that it's about 1/4 inch. Flip her open. And we're going to be sewing from raw edge to raw edge of each of our pieces. We won't be crossing over any of our seams until we're putting our units together. Okay, quick press. I'm going to use my handy little piece of batting and my hot little iron. Get a nice crease here. And we'll look at the line between 2 and 3. These will go together very quickly. Unit B has a few more pieces, and we're going to be starting from this center part, the widest part. We have our stack here, right side up, and B1 is going to be our dark. We'll get this fold nicely creased, and we'll set our first one up face down. So B1 will be with the wrong side up, and we're going to add B2, which is the same size piece, and we'll put the right sides together. Make an overlap so that the lighter one overhangs just slightly. So we'll set this up nice and straight and bring it to the machine. We've got a 1/4 inch lined up here, or a little less, which is fine. Okay, there's 1 and 2 together. Just a little heat massage here for these pieces. They'll be feeling so warm and toasty. Okay, our next piece is B3, and it's the right angle triangle. And we can see that this is the angle that we'll be looking for. So it's going to be with the 90-degree angle at the bottom. Oh, we have to trim this off. Got ahead of myself here. Let's use the ruler to trim it. That would probably work best. Okay, now with our trimmed seam allowance, we'll set up this triangle. I was so excited to get it going. I'm going to make sure that I have just a bit on each side. I can scooch a bit this way. Again, we've cut them generously, so we have some room. I'm going to make sure that the light is just beyond. It's sticking out just behind the medium, so that we'll get a bit of a cover for any dark that might want to sneak out and shadow the previous piece. Okay, right angle triangle. And we sewed the hypotenuse as we have when we've made geese pieces. Okay, nice and crisp. Now we'll work down towards the center. So we'll be looking for the B4 line. And we'll trim. So we're going to fold and trim and position and sew in sequence. Fold, trim, position, sew, and then press. Doesn't matter which side of this. I just saw this was a little bit ragged. It was a bit rough cut. And again, that darker one I could have trimmed a little bit more, but we have some extra so we can put the light just sticking out behind. Sewing time. After Okay, there's our B unit and our not trimmed yet A units, but we can see what's going to be happening here. We're going to be creating this medium right through all the way around the center. Be our sides. Okay, so we'll give these all a good press and we'll trim the edges for assembling the pairs. Here we have one of each of our A and B units that look kind of wacky right now. It's one of the fun things about foundation piecing is it's kind of a surprise as things develop because it makes no sense at all. It doesn't look like really what you're expecting until you get everything put together. So you got to stick to the project and finish it and see it through to the end to get the best satisfaction, most satisfaction from your project. So we'll carry on working through this crazy project of these strange pieces. And we're going to trim off the paper just along the sides that we will be sewing together. So we're going to be cutting off this long side on each, and we'll trim off these little tabs using what we have. And we'll leave these outer edges here for trimming up when we're done. This is a secret for our viewers of the video because it's not in the handout. So consider yourself fortunate, and maybe they'll be wondering, how come your pieces look so great? It might be just because of that extra step that we take, that we leave out actually until the end. So we're going to use our little ruler. This one only has a few lines, that's all we need, which makes it nice and easy to see and trim. So we're going to use the straight line here, the 1/4 inch, to make sure that we're on the paper because our pieces are not a particular size to go by. And we'll trim this off of our A unit. We'll take the little tab off here. We'll rotate this. We won't throw out our B unit. We just got to make sure we don't put it in the trash with these little snippets. Again, just using the 1/4 inch line, getting a nice tidy edge. We're just going to use the dashes for an idea of where our seam allowance is going to end. It's not too precise at this point. It's just going to get some things out of the way. Okay, so here's our A. Let's just do the B unit quickly. Work one of these long sides, 1/4 inch. We got the full length. We can move it up a little bit here. Take all of this off. We'll turn it around to take the other side. And it's long enough. We'll move it down a little more. Okay, we got that nice little point. And we'll just take these off so they're out of the way and they give us something to match up because the points might not be the same length. All right, we're just going to leave these sides on, and we're going to leave this little bit here as well. We'll remove the paper, and then we can get back to the sewing machine to complete all the pairs. So we're going to make 4 pairs sewing these together. When we're sewing our units together, we're going to arrange the A unit on top of B. Just going to swing it around and work from the center because we have these little notches here. And then when we go to match these seams up, they'll be able to lay nicely together, so we don't need any pins. We'll work with the A on top simply because it's shorter than the other one. I've switched to my 1/4 inch foot, which you will need for your seam. If you have a walking foot, if you don't use a faff, a walking foot would be a good idea. And I'll just make sure that these seams are nicely tucked into each other. They've each got a partner. And we're going to come up to the top of this section here. We can run right into the seam allowance there to allow it to catch. And when we open it, you'll see that the A unit is just slightly bigger than the other. It's just a matter of the fractions in the design of the pattern. When we go to open it, we can see that the seam allowance tends to want to go to the A side. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to encourage that. We'll give this a little press and then we'll attach the pairs together. We'll sew 2 pairs together for each half. We'll flip over, and one we'd like to work from the center again. I think that would be easiest. And we'll line up as we had, but this time it'll be the B piece on top. B unit. So we'll get this set up. And just going to finger squish these seams together. And we'll work right from the bottom, well, the center. We can get going here. There we go. All right. Now it is a half, but it's a skew half. So we have the other one here. So this will be making our block. This has been pressed, but I'm going to press this one quickly so that the seam is going to be going in the same direction. Be right back. So both halves have been pressed, and you can see that it's skew because this is going to be a straight edge. I haven't trimmed off the very last bit with our pieces because we're going to square it up when we're done with the block completely. So we'll flip this over and we'll match up best as we can all these little seam allowances, and I have little clips of course for this. So we're going to want to work through this. The seam allowances will be butting against each other here as well. So we'll make that as snug as we can. And then at each intersection of seams, we don't need them for each one, but we'll make sure that they're aligned. They're touching each other. They found their partners, their little buddies. There's a lot of stretch in these angled seams. The straight of grain was most important to have going around in the pattern for appearance. In case you have especially something that has a real obvious grain to see, then you don't want them kind of going skew. Okay, I think we can go on one more just for safety's sake. Butt them up nice and tight. All right. Take a big breath. Don't want to stretch that very much. Just where that intersection is under my finger here. All right, let's go. You can feel it's nice and snug in here. There shouldn't be any gap between where those seams meet. I'm going to give my foot just a chance to grab on. Big breath. Oh, look at that. That's amazing. Oh, I surprised myself. All right, with this final seam, you can see it's very lumpy. It's not giving us a clue as to where it wants to go. There's no one side better than the other, so we're just going to open it flat. We'll take it in with our tiny ironing surface or brush, iron. We'll get that pressed open, and then we'll take it to the work table to square up our final square. Now that we're ready to trim up our block, I'm going to use this little 4.5-inch ruler, and I'm just going to center it as best I can. I've got a little, this is the very middle of my ruler, 2 1/4. And we're going to be chopping off some of these edges because they won't be showing up in our piece when we got it all put together with the others. So I'm going to kind of just see how things line up. Take the least amount off of all sides. And I'm going to really make sure I press hard on my ruler, especially on the side that I'm cutting, so that it doesn't kind of come up and alter the fabrics. It looks a little scary to take these corners off, but we are going to be sewing on this line right here. I don't have a pen. Here's a pencil, sort of. This 1/4-inch line here is the one that we're going to be sewing on, so you can see where it matches here. And over here we're going to be taking it off as well, so we don't need to worry. Besides, you got a whole bunch of beautiful blocks for people to look at. They aren't going to spend too much time on any given one. If they do, they might be quilt police and we can send them on their way. Okay, so I'm going to line these up with what I cut already. My ruler's going to throw me off a little bit. My mat, I think, I don't want it to distract me. Might flip it over next time. And there's a lot of bulk in the middle of this. I'm going to move my little light out of the way. And trim. You got to hold your tongue a certain way when you're doing this kind of cutting. Oh. It's very teepee-like. It's really trying to rock in the middle. I don't have little feet on it. And we may take some off more than the other side, but again, big picture, people. All right. Let's just take a quick peek at this while we have what it's really going to look like. Hang on. Because we're going to be losing that 1/4 inch all the way around, you can see when it's put into the block, into the little quilt, miniature quilt, we're going to have something like this. I think that looks pretty good. Hope you've enjoyed making this one too. I think I might want to make a couple more. It's really